Hey, I recorded this video last week, and so before I started it, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for all the kind messages on the video I left in my last video, my last upload about the loneliness as a quick little upload. And there's just so many like overwhelmingly positive and kind messages, and I'll go through them and respond to them and stuff like that. And I appreciate it. I just wanted to say that, and yeah, here's the video. Cheers. Have a good night, everyone.
Hello my friends, thank you for being here for another video. I'm glad to have you with me. And today I wanted to talk about my favorite substance of all time. There's no special categories, like I'm not doing psychedelics or like chemical drugs specifically. By all time, I mean all time. All substances, all drugs that I've ever tried. Which one is my favorite? I was considering how I would go about answering this question because there are certainly drugs that I have abused over the years, irresponsibly so, but I wouldn't consider them my favorite, probably because most of those had like severe drawbacks. The drawbacks were in fact much worse than the benefit over time. So in the end, I don't see things like alcohol or crystal meth as like my friends, but I also don't see them as like inherently evil, as they're just objects, inanimate objects. I think when people get angry at a substance or they say a substance is evil, really they're just talking about human nature. Like if you let a drug affect your behavior in your life in a negative way, it's not the drug's fault. It's your fault. And also the drug gives you what you want, more or less, unless you got something bad. But take alcohol, for example. It gives you what you want every time. There's no surprises. So I wouldn't call it like evil. It's neutral of anything. There's nothing evil involved with drugs. It's just sadness. It's sad what people turn to. That's really the negative aspect of drugs, is the sad things that people resort to when they're feeling like shit. It's not good or evil. By the way, I'm in a very rambly mood, so this topic, I could ramble so much about this topic. There's so many different tangents I can take, but I'll try be direct. So my favorite psychedelic, specifically, is mushrooms. I've mentioned this before on stream and in videos, I think. I like acid a lot too. It's just mushrooms I think is easier to manage, and I usually almost always have a good time on mushrooms. Acid can be more complicated and a little bit more intense mentally, and sometimes it's too much. Sometimes it's hard to manage. And there's a lot more anxiety throughout periods of the trip on acid compared to mushrooms, for myself anyways. I know some people that would probably say the opposite is true. But if you tallied up all the hours I spent tripping on mushrooms versus acid, and they're probably pretty close, probably more on mushrooms, but a higher percentage of that time would definitely be spent in an uncomfortable state on acid for sure. But when acid's good, acid is great. But then, same goes for mushrooms. I just think it's funner overall. Anyways, that said, mushrooms is not my favorite drug. Maybe you've figured it out by now. Something that doesn't change every time you do it. Every time you do it, it's the same. You know what to expect. The quality of it is very good in this region, and it feels great every time. And just crack cocaine. No, just kidding. No, really though, it's oxygen. If you think about it, no, just kidding again. Definitely overall, my favorite drug would be marijuana. Did you see that? I went green and I timed it cool. But yeah, weed is my favorite drug. I think if someone had a gun to my head and they said, you can only have one drug for the rest of your life, what would it be? I would say marijuana, because first of all, that would be the only answer that I know would be good for me, because it would force me to give up everything else like alcohol and stuff like that. Any other choice really opens up the door to get into trouble. That's the one thing with weed. You can't get into trouble with weed. It's very cheap in Canada. It's very good in Canada. I've never had a bad trip except, I don't know, maybe my first or second trip. Maybe, no, not even. I don't think I've ever had a bad trip with weed, ever in my life. Because I built up a tolerance pretty quick. And then once you have a tolerance, it's like impossible to have a bad trip. But the benefit you get from it isn't that high, it's just a subtle little glow, sort of make things more enjoyable, like guitar, video games, stuff like that. And then people say, well, you should just enjoy those things naturally. It's like, true, but I could just keep smoking weed, because the downfall is really very minimal. Although that's hard to gauge because I haven't really been an adult who hasn't smoked weed, so I don't know what that's like. But does it maybe it affects motivation? It's hard to say. It's hard to say, to be honest. But I think if it affected that sort of stuff in a real major way, it would be pretty obvious, right? It wouldn't be like, I'm not so sure. So I don't know. That's sort of my theory. But there's no clear detriments it's causing me. I can't see any detriments. And every other drug, if you do it too much, you will definitely see detriments. Certain drugs, for sure, you will see detriments. You might die, So the fact that you can't even tell if it's doing anything bad for you, then I think that's worth the benefit I get from it. I enjoy the mood it puts me in. And I like the ritual. I like waking up and smoking. I like smoking with coffee. I like smoking before bed, after lunch, after every meal. I smoke quite a bit. But I don't even smoke that much per session. I'll have like 1 or 2 good bong hits. Like I reached maximum stoned level quite quickly. And my tolerance is very high to the point where edibles don't affect me at all. I can do like 1,000 milligrams, no problem, and feel like kind of stoned and still want to smoke. I like shatter and concentrates and all that. And I love my dab break. But at the end of the day, I just like a nice, strong, fresh indica with lots of crystal on it. Tight buds, would be nice. Not a lot of leaf. And I'm happy. I know that's a tall order, but that's not that hard to get in BC, actually. As far as strains go, people always say, like, what's your favorite strain? I just care, like, if it's grown good, and if it's a strong strain. Sativa, indica, there's always the debate. I always get indica. Not that I notice a difference in the highs, really. I feel like indica is stronger more frequently. Like I'm happier with indica more often when I get indica, where sativa, sometimes I'll get one where it's just like, it's not that strong. So I think indica to me just feels stronger in general. But as far as the highs being different, one being like energetic, I've never smoked a bowl and felt energetic in my life. I don't know, the differences are probably more noticeable for people with lower tolerances, but for me, I don't know, it's all the same, just basically strength and then taste and flavor and freshness. That's my second criteria. Then after that, I don't really care. If it's strong and fresh and tastes good, then we're good to go. What else could you want, really? And like I said, it's also very cheap, especially in Canada. I pay like $100 for an ounce, and that'll last me probably a month or so. I smoke about 0.5 gram a day, I guess, so not too much. Like, I know people who smoke a lot more. I don't know how, really, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm always stoned, so. I don't smoke it, and then the next day I feel like, a sore pain in my lung, Like, if I drink too much, you'll feel it in your kidneys, in your liver, and everywhere, your head. When I was going through recovery, actually, I think marijuana helped a lot with that. Like, if I had nothing, it would have been a lot more difficult. It was something. I gotta have something, And a lot of my counselors would say, like, it was against the rule. Like, if you were in rehab, you had to be quitting everything. It was a dumb, like, unspoken rule, sort of, because, like, it was known that a lot of people are just there to quit their primary addiction, and they're not going to worry about things like tobacco or marijuana just yet, if ever. Not to say that you shouldn't quit tobacco. Tobacco's horrible, but I've known people in recovery who smoke cigarettes, and like, it would have been, I smoked cigarettes when I went through recovery, and it would have really sucked to deal with nicotine withdrawals while trying to quit like a major chemical drug, like one thing at a time. And while while tobacco's really bad for you physically, it's not going to ruin your lifestyle like other addictions will. But then it comes to marijuana, and it's not a problem ever. It's not a problem physically. It's not a problem for your lifestyle. It has a bunch of medicinal effects and benefits. It could be used in textiles, it's a miracle plant. It smells good. It tastes good. Well, it smells good, that's debatable. I know some people who hate the smell. I like it. I like to smell burnt or fresh. It's always great to me. And it's just like the golden age right now for weed in Canada. It's legal, it's cheap, It's good, it's everywhere, and there's all sorts of different products. Like concentrates are really changing a lot and improving a lot, and just the whole landscape around it's changing lately, which, 10 years ago it would have felt like, what's there to change? It's already pretty good. But no, it's more exciting when you get like legal businesses innovating in the industry. I remember a lot of people saying like, oh, legalization is going to be a bad thing, mostly people that were just against the party that wanted to initiate or start legal marijuana. It was like a political thing. But I'm thinking like, how can it be a bad thing? As long as they undercut the black market, which most places are doing, which you'd think they'd have to do to stem the flow of the black market, then the prices are going to be good and the quality is going to go up because it's going to be competitive. And that has mostly remained true. There are some places gouging, like the place across the street charging more than when it was illegal over 4 or 5 years ago. It's like, you can't get away with that because people can grow their own marijuana and people still sell it. Anyways, most places have done it properly, and it's so cheap and good, and it's always there. And it just, when I wake up in the morning, like that thought of like, oh, my first bong toke, I look forward to it. It never gets old too. It never loses its novelty. I always like trying new strains. Like I got this blue cheese one yesterday. Anyways, it's not like psychedelics really can ruin your life either, I guess. Maybe if you take it to the extreme, or if you have like mental health issues that they trigger. But generally speaking, they're pretty safe too. But I feel like once you get what you want out of them, it's like I pretty much get it. I don't use them as like mood enhancers. I use them for the experience, where weed, it's like, it's a mood enhancer and it lets me experience life like a normal person and feel a bit better, where psychedelics, you can't experience life like a normal person. It just fucks you up. So it's good for like a night, but so I could give them up a lot easier than I could marijuana. One might call that addiction, but I mean, it doesn't impact my life a whole lot. Is it a gateway drug? I've mentioned this in a video before. I think it definitely is. I think it did instill an addictive mindset in me when I was younger, when I started smoking it in high school. That might have, led to other things. But, and so ultimately, I think ideally someone would want to be sober and not do any drug and be happy and not have to feel the need to do anything. That's ideal. As a pothead, it sounds like, no, that sounds boring and square. But, I mean, happy people are happy, right? So you wouldn't know what you were missing, You'd be happy. It wouldn't matter. So I think ultimately that would probably be the ideal life. But now that I am living this life, it's like I love marijuana. So this is one of two weeds that I'm smoking right now. This is called Black Diamond. It's like a local favorite, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's very big worldwide. And then we got here, this is the blue cheese. Cheers, everybody. I hope you have a great day, night, afternoon, whatever. Take it easy. Be safe. I love you all. Thank you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.